What's up, movie buffs? I'm Jeremy, the pop culture nihilist, and I'm excited to be making some content. It's been a little while, and I've got the new studio almost set up, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today, something that I've never discussed before, but apparently I've sort of become a casual fan of lately, and that is WWE and wrestling at large. But specifically today, we're going to be talking about WrestleMania, and joining me to do so is martial arts film freak himself, Tristan Glover.
Whoa, whoa, WrestleMania. I hate that fucking song.
Do you?
Oh, it's terrible.
Every wrestling song is an earworm that, out of context, I'm not sure that it's actually good music.
Well, that's from like 4 years ago, and it's still rotted into my brain.
So, are you like a lifelong wrestling fan?
I got into it when I was about 9 to 10. I got into it in about 2006. That only actually lasted about 4 years. And then I didn't get into it again until about 2015. And then I was just in deep. I sort of adult money. I don't know. I was 18, 19, had money for the WWE network. So like $9.99 a month, and you got every pay-per-view. Which, as a kid, I never got a single pay-per-view. We couldn't afford that.
My gateway, I suppose, would have been WCW versus NWO on the Nintendo 64. And similar to your story, I watched it for like maybe 3 years, maybe through to 1999. I saw the beginning of the Attitude Era, but by the time Stone Cold was like really big, I wasn't even watching it anymore. So like for me, it was that transitional period from WCW kind of merging into what I think was still WWF at the time. And then more recently, I have a friend, Jonathan, who is like 100% in, and I went over to his house and I watched the Royal Rumble, which was like a matter of months ago. And since then, I've been like, it's cool, man. I really enjoy it. I am about as novice as you could be, as far as I couldn't even name but about 10 to 15 wrestlers that are currently wrestling right now. So I don't consider myself a expert by any means. And I think that's what will make this an interesting conversation. To you, what makes a good wrestler?
Just got to have it all. Got to be completely well-rounded. You got to be able to talk. You got to have a personality. You got to be turned up to 100, not just be completely yourself, but turn it up to 1,000% and just have the most crazy personality in the world, whether it be this subtle talker like a Jake the Snake or Cody Rhodes, or screaming your head off like Ric Flair. Woo, 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 woo. And then, of course, you got to be able to wrestle.
I like the high flyers.
And Ricochet can get higher than a stealth fighter, and he's definitely not going to throw away his shot.
I like the dudes that come off the top. I like a lot of the more acrobatic stuff, and that's why I've always been drawn to someone like Rey Mysterio, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. I feel like the technical stuff is what really sells it. Right now, the people who cut promos that I really enjoy is somebody like Cody Rhodes, where their kayfabe and their actual real storylines kind of intersect, and I feel like those personal stakes make me be able to root for a guy like that who, based on his costume and his look and stuff, I don't think I would be as into him. But then also there's an element of like, we're supposed to like them because they're putting them over, right?
Right. And I mean, that's the crazy blend. It's one of the most unique things about pro wrestling is it's like the only fandom where you are in on different dimensions. Like for me, I'm in deep. I'm into the kayfabe, I'm into the storylines, but also I fully support like, you know, certain guys. Like I want certain people to succeed. So like you can get a great storyline, and I'm totally going to follow the storyline. But like, you know, I like Cody. He came in when I was a kid, back when he was like 20 years old. I was 9. I see him get treated like crap. He starts his own company. He comes back a new man. He's all like rejuvenated, and he's the new nightmare family Cody Rhodes kind of thing. You see these people from the inside and the outside. So it's like, I support this character, but also you're a real person. I want you to succeed. So you kind of get the different levels there.
Yeah, that's interesting, because there's, okay, so kayfabe, if I can broadly describe it, and then maybe you can help me out. Kayfabe is the in-ring, on-screen persona, basically.
Yes, but also not completely, I guess, on screen, because there are people who take it off. There are people who continue it into the world to be as legit as possible.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Undertaker was one of those people.
Undertaker was, up until about 3 years ago. And then you got like, you know, Ric Flair just is Ric Flair now.
You get on Space Mountain, you'll be like this.
There's no real person. Ric Flair is Ric Flair.
How important to being a good wrestler is it to be able to like just straight up take a hit?
It's so important that it's ruined people's careers. Like when I say ruined people's careers, I mean they're too good at it. You got someone like Dolph Ziggler who like should be a multi-time world champion. And instead, I think he's like a one-time world champion, and that's as close as he's ever come.
Because
he's too good at making people look good. He can take a bump, he can sell for you and make you look like $1 million. And he's like an incredible wrestler, both like technical wrestler. He can do the high flying stuff. He can talk. He's got great personality. He can go in the ring and he can make his opponent look like $1 million. But the problem is he makes his opponent look like $1 million and they make him lose every time because they're like, God, you're good at losing.
Do you want to suck at selling so that you can like thrive in the industry?
No, because then you just ruin the story.
When we're talking about something like John Wick 4, every single blow is completely choreographed, rehearsed. There's no ad-libbing or improvising. Do you know how wrestling works?
So most of the time, most wrestlers, they'll set up a few spots. They'll talk about some spots in the back, but then most of it in the ring is just called though. And most of the, like the purists like to say, like the purist wrestlers and fans are like, oh, I love a good match that's called in the ring. But there are some amazing matches that have been rehearsed.
Called in the ring where guy A says to guy B, all right, I'm about to put you in a suplex. And then he says, okay. And that's what you're talking about?
Yeah. Drop down, do this. Okay, now we're going to go. And, they try to be quiet so like the camera doesn't pick it up or something.
To that point, and obviously it's hard to pick a greatest wrestler, who are like a couple of the dudes who you just think they're unparalleled in their ability to do all of the shit?
Number one, and he's typically my number one wrestler, I guess, when I try to think of like an all-time wrestler, and that is Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
People would probably say like it's almost blasphemous to say Triple H, but I mean, you can't deny that Triple H like had some compelling ass matches. Stone Cold. These days, you got people like Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins.
I was going to ask about Seth Rollins. I've heard people say he's the best current wrestler right now. So you think that's, one of the best?
I'd say top 3, top 5.
What about in women's?
Women's, of course, you got like Charlotte is great.
Is she?
Charlotte is truly fantastic. She's just, it's not necessarily her personality or anything. It's just her presence is extremely overbearing.
I like Rhea. I think obviously she's fantastic. Becky Lynch is probably my all-time favorite female wrestler to watch.
Becky Lynch is great. You should go back to about 2019, 2018 and check out like the shit she was doing there, because she was the most popular wrestler in the world. Man, woman, anything. She was the most popular wrestler in the world.
I like Bianca. I think she's really good in the ring. I don't know so much about her kayfabe or storylines, but she seems good. And then obviously I love to watch Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss just because they're gorgeous. I don't know how great they are.
Liv Morgan's very good. Liv Morgan, I really took notice of her a couple years ago just because she could take some bumps. She was like falling through tables and stuff, and I was like, "What's her deal?" Because she's like willing to take some punishment.